Okay, so the recorder has started. Yep. And again, my name is Rick Baxter. That is me up there. I'm coming to you live today. It's Wednesday, February the 27th, 2019. I'm coming to you from Carmel, Indiana, which is just north of Indianapolis. We're going to look today how to turn your Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central jobs into projects. What's the process to make a job into a project? And I'm going to take you through that experience here today. Okay, I'm going to get started, so I'm going to just scroll down. Most of you should have this study guide, so you should be able to follow along. So I like to do this a little bit of a story. I'm going to kind of set the stage here for you. We're going to pretend that we're a conveyor company, Kronos Conveyor Company, and we make conveyor systems. And the reason I kind of pick on conveyor companies is they typically make a unique product. It's different every time they make it. We'll say the factory is located in St. Louis, Missouri, out near the airport. They design, they build, and install their custom conveyors all over the United States. So the key here is that every job is different. I don't know if that sounds like you or maybe some of your customers, but just think in terms of different jobs and what you make. You probably don't make conveyor systems, but this is just the example I'm going to use here today. And sometimes you may want to combine more than just a conveyor. You may make conveyor and hydraulics. That would actually make a project because you've got two jobs going on. You want to group them, and it may be for the same customer. I'll show you some examples of that as we get into the software. So here's a picture of our custom conveyor. All this blue equipment here is what we make, and really it's installed at the customer site for this company called Mighty Metal Recycling. It's not their real name, but we'll just assume this is one of our customers, and that's our equipment installed out there at that custom installation. Now, what we as a company, we want to know is, do we make any money? I mean, that's, if you think about costing software, it's not just the cost, it's also the revenue. So we want to kind of make sure that we have revenue and we have cost tracked, and we can analyze the difference, which is the profitability. So that's a major goal for this software as we go through it. So we're going to follow the steps of how they might use the software. I'm going to take you into the live software. You see it running back here. And we're going to start with basically a new sales quote. We're going to quote to a new customer our conveyor system. And I typically start the quote at $1, and then I go into and create a job, a quote job, to do the estimating process to figure out what I'm going to charge the customer for the work. So I really want to know what the cost is, and I want to know what the price is that I'm going to charge the customer, and then of course finalize that price and get that on the quote. So let me see. Yeah, okay, so yeah, so let's do the first part here. So let me move this out of the way, and of course it timed out on me. I'll just restart here. And I'm going to show this with the web client. It's pretty much the same. This is Business Central 365. I'm going to use the web client to do this demonstration. Okay, so we're going to do a quote. So to start a quote, I'm going to go here to my sales quotes, and we're just going to add a new one. So guess what? It's a choice right here called new. Not too hard so far. So it asks for the customer name. So the first thing I'm going to do is select what customer I'm going to quote. We'll just do Celigorian. And there's the customer is filled in, the information, and I really don't need to do much more than that. I'm just at the quote stage here. Now we need to put in the line item of what we're going to quote. And of course, I'm being in the conveyor business, I'm going to quote a conveyor, and I have a resource set up, not an inventory item, because I don't stock conveyors. So there's no point putting it into inventory. It's really a service that we provide. So I'm going to do this as a resource, and I have on my resource list, I think I have some services, some small projects, but I also have this conveyor predefined. And by the way, this is a template. I've set up a template ahead of time. You'll see it here in just a minute, so that all the things that I normally do when I install a conveyor system are in that template. It just saves me time. I'm not real sure at this stage the price I'm going to charge, so I'm going to start the quote at just $1, $1. Okay. A couple things I'm going to point out here on the line item also is if I slide over here to the right, you'll notice there's a place for the job number and the job task number. So it's really the job number that I want you to pay attention to. We've got this quote number. In fact, I'm going to write that number down here just a second. So this is 1009. That's the quote number. And we're going to create a job right from here. I'm going to do it all right from this quote. And actually, you'll see it right here under the job option. And I can then make a job for this line item. So there's several choices here. I won't explain everything today, but let's just create a job. So we just say, okay, make a job. Now, I may have some issues with the dates. I'm not going to worry about them too much at this stage. We'll just go ahead and set up this job, and there it's done. Now notice the job number. It's filled this in for me automatically. I didn't type that in. So it's job 1009-01. That's for the first line item of this quote. If I had a second line and a third line, it would be -02, 03 for as many line items and as many jobs or multiple jobs as I want to kind of group together there. That would be the way we would set this up. Now what I want to do is, obviously I'm not going to quote it for $1. It's more than $1. We want to actually calculate the what the cost will be of this job and what price we're going to charge. So I simply use this option here, which is to view the job's estimating. It's the estimating worksheet. Let me just click on this, and this will bring up basically our template that was predefined. So in here is the things that we typically do when we work on these conveyors. So let me just start with this first group up here. It's called pre-production, and I have client meetings, I have engineering and CAD work, some internal meetings, some designing, and you got to think in terms of your own business and how long it takes you to do these different things. Now, I had it set for the CAD work is predefined to Linda at 20 hours. But let's say oops, I don't want that there. Sorry. I want to make this, instead of 20 hours, let's make it 30 hours. So it basically, for that 30, what it's doing is it's going in here. It didn't do quite what I wanted. Let me just do it real quick. Edit the planning lines. I pushed the button wrong, I'm sorry. So I'm going to put in here Linda. There we go. And 30. Okay. And go back. All right. I think I'll do that again on one of these others. Let's take this labor 20. You'll see down here it's set at 80 hours. I want to change that from 80. Let's drop that down. So let's say it's 65 hours. So I can literally change that, and now it's going to automatically insert the line. I just pushed the keys wrong. And so now you see down here on the planning lines, you'll see I've got the 65 hours. It takes the 65 times some rate. You've got to have some rate assigned to it because we got to convert those hours to a cost. So we're going to take the hours times a rate. In this case, it's $20 because I'm using labor 20. and it gives me then a total cost of $13.30. Now, I kind of like this concept of labor 20. Let me explain why I like this. Often when you're doing a quote, you don't know specifically who's going to be doing the work. So, but you need to have some value in there and how many hours it's going to take. So I put in just a labor 20. Now, if you know that Linda is always going to be doing the CAD work, or Linda's always going to be on the client meetings, then you can put her name there as a kind of a specific resource. But often when you're doing some early estimating, you may not know exactly who will be doing the work on these projects. So you can either put it in as a specific one and the rate, and it will then, of course, extend down here. Like for this one, Mark, at 40 hours times his rate, there's the cost, and then you can see it totals it up there as well. Okay, so this is where, oh, and look on this one too. Now this is the fabrication. On this line that I'm on, I've also got some materials. So your bill of materials can be predefined in here. So when we do conveyor manufacturing, we always know we need 2 side panels, 1 base, 20 tops, 2 rear panels. So you can kind of predefine your bill of materials right here, but you still can always edit those called planning lines. And instead of, let's say, top panels, maybe I don't need 20, maybe I need 18 for this job. Well, you can change these. And of course, what that's going to do is it's going to take that 18 down the line here, 18 times the cost of that inventory item and come up with a new extended total cost. Okay. And if you'll notice too, it also has price. So we're really doing 2 things. We're doing some costing and pricing and coming up with the line amount for the charge to the customer, because we really need to do an estimate of cost and estimate of price. Let's go back and let me take you just a little step further here. If I take the upper window and slide this way to the right, I'm going to skip over some of these other columns. I want to call your attention to these 2 columns right here called the contract amount. This is where you can decide what you're going to charge the customer. And the computer has already calculated from these prices down here what it recommends that you charge. Now you can either use that dollar amount or you can put in something else. You could just say, no, I'm just going to charge $4,000 for that item and just plug it. Or there's another way you could do it. You could say, I'm going to go with those, and you could copy all these prices over, copy the scheduled prices to the contract amounts. So I could say that choice, and it says, are you sure? I'm going to do that. And so now I've got this, I've basically saved myself some time because it's brought in all these numbers and it has given me this basically total price for that contract. But you can still come in and make changes. So if, for example, on this one, if you wanted that to be $4,500, you can, it's free form. And it also shows you what the margin is. And if you change the margin 50%, it's going to calculate over this direction. So it's kind of bi-directional in the margin calculation. Okay, so now we've got, let's see what we've got for a total down here, $27,480. That's our price that we want to put on the quote. And basically, I'm still on the quote. I'm just looking over at the estimating worksheet for this quotation. It's all tied together. So to put that dollar amount on the quote, all I have to do is say close this window, and it's going to say, do you want to change the price of $1 to the $27,480? We'll say yes. All right, so now let's go look at the quote. And you'll see on my quotation, $27,480 has been added. So this is what we want to send to our customer or our prospective customer. And so to send it out, you could I believe it's up here. We could send by email. I don't think I've got my email hooked up. Let me see. Cannot send this. Do you want to download it? Oh, let's do this. So I don't have the email hooked up, but I can at least show you what the quote's going to look like. So here's the quote document. And so here it says sales quote for one conveyor, $27,480. So it's ready to send over to your prospective customer. Okay, now, if we think in terms of the workflow, in fact, let me go back to the study guide and try to stay somewhat on track here. So we've basically done number 1 and number 2, and we brought in that template and adjusted and finalized the price. So let me go down to number 3. We closed the estimating worksheet and updated the quote to the final price. We've done that. We sent an email to the customer. And by the way, if your quote has lots of text, got lots of verbiage on your documents, you may use the Business Central quote document as a reference to any kind of Word document or PDF or something like that because I've seen some quotes that are 10 or 20 pages long that really explain every little thing, lots of specifications, not appropriate to put all that in nav. So use your quote as more of a reference. Okay, so number 5, if the customer accepts the quote, and I'm trying to do this in terms of normal workflow. Think in terms of what happens first, what happens next. So the customer requested a quote. Now we want to send him we sent the quote out, and let's assume that he accepts the order. So we ring the bell, we're all excited, and we now need to make that quote into a firm order. So let me show you what that is all about. So from this quote, so I'm staying here on the quote, and there is an option right here called Make Order. And what this will do is it'll convert the quote to an order. Yes, we want to do that. So it's a kind of a move. It moves it over. Let's not worry about the dates. Do you want to continue? Yes, I do. So what it's doing is it's basically taking that quote document. Hello. Okay. There it goes. Okay. And it's converted it to a sales order. Now notice the sales order is 1009. Same number. So I've got the order, I've got the conveyor, I've got I'm all ready to bill the customer because the sales order is kind of preparing for billing. But I've also now got a job set up for tracking the cost. Let's just make sure it did that. So if I go to my open job list, I should, somewhere in here should be that there it is right here, 1009-01 for that conveyor for $27,480. That's what we put in for this particular job. So it's automatically set this totally up for us. Boom, boom, boom. Very simple to do. Okay, so if the customer accepts, you convert it to a quote, and we now have a new sales order and a new open job, and the job is ready to start tracking the actual costs of the work, because at this stage it's a brand new job. Nobody's done anything on the job, so the actual costs are all going to be at zero. We'll show you that here in just a second. Okay, I want to do a quick poll and see how we're doing. Make sure you kind of understood what I just described. So let me just see if I can get this up on your screen. There we go. So grab your mouse, if you would, be so kind. Grab your mouse and let me know if what I showed you was, and I hope so, easy or hard. Or if it's not for you, you can let me know that too. And when are you going to get to job costing? Very soon. I'm going to get there. And how do you ask a question? To ask a question, there is a question box right on your webinar dialog. Okay, we've got 86% of you voting. Excellent. Let's 100% voting. Excellent. So let me close that and I'll share it back. And wow, everybody's saying 100% easy, easy, easy. Good. Okay, so perfect. Let me hide this back. So good. Okay, so I'm always concerned that as I flash through these screens, sometimes it looks like, oh, this looks so hard to do, and I try to my very very best to kind of help you understand what this is about. Now, this is an overview. This is not a training class on this product. This is just to kind of give you an overview of some of the key functionality within there. And I'm glad you feel the degree of difficulty is easy at this stage. And I'm going to try and keep it that way as we go forward. Okay, so number 7 is we're going to go to the job list and find our new job. We want to kind of look at the new job and make sure it's showing up. And I do want to review this concept of single job versus a group of jobs. Okay. And let's see, optional sales quote to jobs. Oh, by the way, now the way I did this first part, these first 6 steps, I did a new job from a quote. In other words, I started on the quote and created a job. But some of you may not want to go through all that. You may just want to go new job. So let me just show you real quick here on the job list. So when you're on a job list, you can just use this choice and say new and just add a new job. You don't have to go through a quote if you don't want to. It's optional. Okay, works just fine either way. Now, the concept and the name of this webinar was like, what is projects versus what are individual jobs? So to me, it's all about how you group the individual jobs. So here's an example down here. Let's look at this one that's already in here. We've got customer it's 20,000. This is our master customer, and then these are 3 jobs. We have a small project, some service, and then an item type job. So there's 3 different types of jobs. I think I've got another one up here. Here's one that's got an 01, 04, 05, and 06. It's got 4 jobs in here. The conveyor, making a finished good 101. So there's several things that are going on these jobs. But this is forming a group. So all of these together makes up a group of jobs, and then the cost can roll up to the master job level. Now, Nolan has a question here. Let me just take it real quick. Does this work with internal CRM for Business Central? Yes, it does. When you convert an opportunity to a sales quote, does it tie back to CRM? Or is this no? It's that standard product, and in fact, in some past presentations, I've actually started with the CRM opportunity and created a quote from the opportunity, and then the quote creates the job. I kind of skipped that on this presentation, but Nolan, it works from there just as nicely as well, all the way from an opportunity. Thanks for asking. Okay, so again, the concept of grouping jobs, 01, 04, 05, and 06, these are all sub-jobs to this master job. Now, a couple things I want to point out. Let's go to the job we just put in, this one right here. So we put in this conveyor job for the contract amount. That's this column here, $27,480. You'll also see that's here on the right side. So I'll call your attention to the right side of the screen where I've got the contract amount. I've got the shop labor hours. All those hours that we had in there, we changed them around a little bit, is 385 hours. We've got shop labor cost at 15,000. Very little materials on this one, so the template doesn't have enough material sample, but I've got some. And by the way, these are all drillable. So when you see this link show up, I can click on that link, and then it's going to show me all of the labor hours that were entered. That's the labor, and then I can press escape and go back, and I can do the same on this material list. And you can see there's that side panel. I think we changed this to 18. So this is the list that we've got from our estimating. So I can press escape, or you can also use the back arrow here and go back to your job list. That's kind of how you navigate around in Business Central. Okay, let me go back to my outline, make see where I am. Okay, so we found our new job. Now, job manager, this number 8, to me, this is really important. Job manager is all about the results. What kind of results do you want to get out of a job costing software? To me, one of the primary statistics that I like, at least my customers like to look at, is my job profitable? So it's just a matter of taking the revenue minus the cost, and that shows you what the profitability is on every job. And that could be estimated profitability, or it could be actual profitability. You can see that on the list, and you can see it on the statistics. Let me give you an example here on that. I think this is pretty important. So here on this job, here is my budget. And so it shows material cost. Now, I did not have any outside processing. In your company, you may have more people that actually you subcontract more work. Then that's going to show up here in your budget. You may have a budget for transportation cost, whatever it is. It's going to total that up down here for the total estimated budgeted estimated cost for the job. And if I scroll down just a little more, look right here. So here is my actual cost. Now remember, this job just started, so there's no postings. There's no entries to the job. No revenue's been posted. There's no hours posted, no material posted. So all these are zero. Let me show you on a job that actually has some transactions to it. I think this one has a few. Yeah. Okay, so here's a different job. It's got a different contract amount, different cost amount, and you can see here's what it starts to look like, where you're seeing actual material costs coming in, actual outside processing, and these are drillable as well to my actuals. Okay, so the actuals are stored in what's called the job ledger entries. So I can see this would be a big list of all the subcontract work that you are having done. Here's the materials. So all the materials that you have purchased would show up here as well. So lots of detail supporting all of these numbers. Now there's also, let me see if I can jump into this as well, a really nice statistic window. Here it is right here. Job Manager Statistics. I love to show this one because this compares so nicely your current budget. This is that budget information that we just saw versus the actuals. And then of course now I can subtract. So if I read from left to right, the difference between the budget and the actuals is my remaining cost, hopefully my remaining cost, and I'm 2% complete on my labor cost here, and my material cost I've actually gone over. So that happens, that you sometimes buy more materials than you estimated. That happens. So you're going to have a negative variance on that column, but maybe overall, this job doesn't have any revenue. So nobody has sent out an invoice on this job. And so it's looking like the profitability is in the hole. But that's simply because there's been nobody sent an invoice to the customer yet for the work done to date. But this is a really nice kind of view, statistical view of your job, along with the original budget. You can kind of freeze the budget at the beginning of the job and then compare that to what the current budget is in case you make any changes to the budget during the course of the job. I may come back to this screen because there's a couple other things I want to show you there. Okay, let's just stay somewhat on track here with that. So that's all about the results and the profitability and the grouping. Okay, so let's look at a couple other goodies here. One is print the job traveler. So what you'll often want to be able to do is on, let's do it on this new one that we just put in. So here's the job. Let's go. I'm going to open up what's called the job card. This is it's called the job card. So this is all the information about this job. And notice I've got quantity ordered, quantity produced, quantity remaining. If you're in a situation where you are physically making inventory items and you want to produce and add to your finished goods, then you would have a quantity, say 1,000 here of the item that you're producing, and still track the cost of that production. That works very nicely for jobs as well. And if you have questions, actually I'm thinking about this, if you have questions on anything that you see me showing here today, you can either pop it into the question box right here today, or you can certainly send me an email or just a call. I've got a phone on my desk, and last time I checked, it worked. Okay, so what I mentioned, that report, I want to print the Traveler for you. So let me go to the Job Manager reports. Traveler, where are you here? Okay, so here's the job Traveler. Let's do this for the job we just put in, 1009-01, this one right here. And I'll preview it so you can see it on screen. Okay, now let me get this a little bigger here. There we go. Okay, so a Traveler is a document that you would put in probably a sleeve, protective sleeve or something, and send out to the shop with the information of quantity ordered, the due dates, certainly the job number, and you'll notice the barcodes that we put on here as well, because you may want to have the employees scan their time so that Linda would clock in or clock out in engineering, or some of the CAD work, or further down here maybe for cutting or welding or painting. These are things that people do, and they would probably want to scan their time and record the actual time, because this shows estimate of 40 hours. It may not take 40 hours, but you would have an accumulation of the actual time spent. So this is what's called a Traveler, and you can have comments on here as well. And notice too, the bill of materials is showing here, and there's that 18 quantity that we had put in as well. Okay, so let's go back here, and I'm going to go back to my outline. So the Traveler is important, and let's talk a little bit about the material demand. In other words, we did the estimating, and so now the purchasing agent needs to buy materials for this job. So they need to go out and actually buy some materials for the job. So the purchasing department, or whoever does that work, can look at the raw material list on the estimate to assist with the procurement process. If you took the time, let's go back to the software. Let's go back to the job list. I don't know where I like to work from. Okay, so here's the job we just put in. And when we did the estimate, we actually put in some of those materials. They were in there. I didn't have very many, but I had some. And you may have thousands of materials in your list of items, and they can be specific. Oh, I need to mention this. Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to that estimating, because I don't want to give wrong impressions here. So I had the material list here under cutting. All right, so I have under my cutting, I've got the materials, but you could have materials under painting as well. So under painting, let's see if I've got any paint. No, I don't have any paint in there, but you could actually have the paint materials that go with the painting step. You've got the welding materials, and maybe even a machine that goes along with the welding. All of that can be specific to each of these items. For those of you on the call that might be familiar with nav manufacturing, that's called routing link codes. And this is kind of automatic routing link codes is really what's happening. You're linking the materials to specific operations of the job. So it's the same concept as what you have for those of you that are familiar with the manufacturing side of the software. Okay, So the concept is now we've got that material in there. Now we need to help the purchasing agent buy it. Make sense? All right. So we added a specific choice up here called purchases bomb lines. And this basically shows me all the materials for that job across all tasks. So there you may have paint in here, you have welding materials, you have everything that you're going to be purchasing for the job would be listed here in this list of materials. So if I'm the purchasing agent, I can actually see the quantity that is the demand. I can see any job to date usage. So if they've already used some of the materials, they would show up here, and then I would have an outstanding quantity, which would be kind of the remaining amount of materials needed for this job. Now, I don't know your individual businesses, but you might notice it's got the vendor in here, and then you can actually put in a quantity to requisition, or you can autofill that. I could just say, let's buy all those materials. So I say, boom, fills this in. So now I'm getting ready, quantity to requisition. It's not on the requisition yet. So quantity to requisition, and then I create the requisition, and it's a push. It pushes this list of materials to the requisition worksheet because it could be somebody else is doing that function of actually carrying out and buying the purchase orders themselves. I'm not going to actually go through the logistics of doing that, but it works perfectly, and then that demand shows up on the POs as open committed cost towards that job until the items come in and then they're received and so forth. So it's a very clean process there. Okay, that's material demand. So now the conveyor company begins work on the project. So think in terms of now what starts to happen. Well, typically you start with the very first task. And in this case, designing is, let's say, the first task. So somebody is going to be recording the time of the labor that is going to be used on this job. And the task list, that's the purpose of the task list, is because you really want to allocate the employee's time to specific work activities like welding or painting or installing or traveling or hundreds of potential tasks that you might have. Hussein just asked a question, can we see the available quantity in stock? I noticed that when so I'm going to jump back here for just a second. So when I'm looking at this, it might be nice to have a fact box. I was just thinking about that fact box right here on the right side that would show us that supply and demand information in inventory, so I could kind of look to see if I have side panels. No point buying them if I've got them in inventory. I want to just see if there is an option. Hussein, it's a really good point. I thought I had that in there, but maybe I don't. I think I'll get that added. That's a good idea. Yeah, that'd be a nice feature. Okay, good point. All right, so yeah. So labor costs. So let's talk about labor for just a minute. In fact, I might even do a posting of labor. I think I'm going to have time here. Yeah, let's just do one so you can see it in action. So I'm going to post some time to this job. Notice on the job we just created, there's no time yet. But let's say, and I'm going to show it to you, entering some time to that job, but I'm going to do it through the job journal. So I can just go here to our journals, and we'll just do a simple job journal entry. And this is pretty much the way it works kind of out of the box for entering some time. So we would come in and we would say the job is that, here it is right here. We would say I worked on, let's say I was doing some CAD work. So that's the code. The resource would be I don't think I've got myself in here. I'm Mark. So we'll say Mark, and he works for, let's say, 4 hours at some cost rate. That's typically a shop rate. And then you enter the next one. I think it probably is going to need a posting date. Let me move off the line. I thought it would add that. So it doesn't. I'll put in a date, and we'll just say document 1. All right, so now let's just post this. We'll just do one very simple entry, and I'll just post this thing. And then we should see those 4 hours show up on that job. So the lines were successfully posted. We'll just go check it out. Always like to kind of check your work, right? Especially when you're kind of getting started with the software, you always want to kind of, go in and make sure that it's actually working. And if you can tell right from here, it worked. Can you see how I know that it worked? Look at the screen real closely. Okay, look. Actual job cost. So here's our actuals. And there's those 4 hours. Shop hours 4, and there's the cost. And it's drillable, so I can drill down and I can see Mark with the 4 hours on this job and that task. Okay, so I can see it at that level. I can also see it, this is kind of interesting as well. You can also see that information at the, I want to go down to this one. It's called task details. And this is, I don't know if I've talked about this or not. I guess I have. This is the list of things that you do on a job. Okay, it's all the things that you do on a job. And it's like, machining and welding and painting to actually do the job. But what's nice is right here is your budget, but this is more detailed budget. You see the difference? Before I was just showing total labor, total materials. Now you're seeing labor split out by how much client meeting labor, how much engineering and CAD labor, how much for welding, maybe materials could be, let me see what's in here. If I click on it, drill down, it's just estimate of 40 hours for Mark to do that work, okay? So it could be there, let's see, if paint, do I have any materials in paint? No, just 80 hours. Okay, so you could have a list here of the actual paint materials as well. And then the actuals are coming in this column. So here's our usage, what we call usage cost. And there's that $198. See, and I can drill down on that one as well. And I can see the actual posting, which goes to the job ledger entries for Mark, and the date he worked and how many hours and probably the rates and so forth are in there as well. So all that information is handy dandy for you on that job as well. Okay, so I think you're getting the concept here. Hopefully you're following what I'm showing you here. And then subcontractors, I'll just mention subcontractors are pretty much the same process as buying materials. So you're going to kind of issue a PO to your subcontractor for some service that they're going to provide, be a quantity maybe or a dollar amount. But as long as you've got the job number on the PO line, that committed cost is going to show up on the job statistics as well. Okay, so I want to do another quick poll here, see how we're doing. And my curiosity is killing me here. So if you had these features that I'm showing you here today, would you use them? Would you like to use them? Okay. You can either say, yes, I like it, or this is fantastic, or maybe, or how do I get it? Or if it's not for you and you're going to drop off the call, I understand as well. But I hope those of you on the call today, the reason you're here hopefully is to say that this is what you were looking for is all to do with job costing. Okay, let me close the poll out and we'll share this back with you. And what are people saying? Let's see. 50% say, yes, I love what I'm seeing, and 50% say this is fantastic. I'll take that as a good response. So thank you very much for your feedback, and hopefully I'm doing a good job showing you around the software here. Okay, let's go on just a little further. Bear with me here. I want to talk about reporting. So we provide a lot of ways to get information out. I've shown you a couple reports. I want to show you this one as well. The job cost audit report and the job cockpit. And there's a bunch of them, but let's start with this audit report because everybody wants to know, how do I get an audit detail of my job? So I think I've got that right on the menu here. Yeah, right here, job audit report. And let me just preview this to the screen so you guys can see it. And no one's asking an excellent question. Okay, so here's the job cost audit. It's going to show all of those individual postings. Now we're talking about actual time, right? Linda Martin, Mark, the materials, the heat treating that was used, the materials that were consumed on the job. I want everything itemized in detail that shows me exactly what went into the total cost down here at the bottom. It's going to give me a grand total somewhere down here. That's my budgeted cost, and here's my job to date actual cost as of the time that I printed this report. So, the audit report gives you that supporting detail of all the cost that goes into the job. That's a hard copy, physical paper copy, which you can look on the screen. And of course, all these information out here, this is all kind of audit information as well. Now, there's a couple other things I want to mention here. So let me go back to the main menu. So you saw that statistic window that breaks out the cost of each job. We thought, my gosh, it'd be nice if I could see that across all jobs. So this is a new feature here. I think this was maybe back in 2018 we added this thing called Job Cockpit. And it basically is a list of all your jobs. And it shows the quantity ordered. It shows the quantity remaining, the status. These are all my open jobs. The contract amount, so I know what's my total amount that's under contract at any given time. That's going to grand total all of the jobs for me. It's going to show my estimated labor hours. It's got my actual hours, the remaining hours. Everybody seems to know how many hours do I have remaining on that job. That's showing here. The actual labor cost, then the actual labor cost would show up here. There's that little $198. And let's see, so it's lots of goodies, okay, here for the jobs. The main thing is what's my total contract amount, my estimated cost, and my actual job to date cost across all jobs. This is across all jobs. And then my statistic windows that you've seen me use in the past, they're here as well for the individual jobs that you're landing on. So this is kind of a nice little summary snapshot of your of the jobs themselves. And then, of course, reporting. Everybody wants a bunch of reports. So let me see. This is a good one. So let me just bring this one up. This is called the summary actual. So it's kind of a hard copy. Again, now this is a physical printed report. And so let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. Okay, so it lists all your jobs down here. The left side, what they are, the status, the posted invoices to them, the actual cost, the actual material cost, that's the labor cost, total actual cost, the difference, there's that profitability. Remember, that's such an important factor for most people that do costing of their jobs. They want to know what the profitability is of the jobs. Again, all on these nice reports. We provide all the reports are all included in the software. It's a pretty big list, actually. If we look at the Job Manager reports here, all these reports, and I can't go through each one of them here with you today, but what we hear from the users is very acceptable reporting for that's provided right out of the box. Okay, all sorts of reports. Okay. And then billing. I do want to mention some billing options here. Everybody says, well, how do I bill my jobs? Well, what I find is that it's done so many different ways, it's kind of hard to remember them all. So there's completed contract. You wait until the job's completely done, and when the contract's over, then you bill it. And then there's time and material. There's milestones. So as you move through certain processes, we'll bill at 20%, or percent of completion. So that's a kind of an earned revenue. I've completed 20% of the job, so I've earned 20% of the contract amount, and you bill that. We support that method as well. Cost plus, freeform, and certainly the sales order. I showed you that at the very beginning. So Job Manager has 8 billing options, and there are some very nice videos on our website that show examples of each one. Let me just mention the job closeout, this last one here, number 15. Then I've got something special to show you. The job closeout is like, well, what happens when the job is finished? Everybody says, well, do you just delete the job, or what happens to that job? Well, there's an option. See if I can find it real quick here. If I can't, I'm going to move on. The out of the box, what you can do is you can just change the status from open to completed. See, there's 4 statuses to every job: planning jobs, quote jobs, open jobs, and completed jobs. We did not like, this is our personal preference, we did not like it where people could just come in and willy-nilly change the job to completed, because there could be outstanding purchase orders that they didn't know about. Or there could be an invoice that needs to be done, or there could be a ledger posting that hasn't been made to this job. So we do a check as you do a completed process, we do a check to be sure that all the things that need to be done to this job are complete, because we want the actual costs to be 100% the actual cost. You can't leave a PO dangling out there and complete the job, because you can't post to a completed job. So we do some checks and some warnings before that occurs. But it does not, the main thing here is it does not delete the job. You're not going to lose the history of that job just because you complete a job. You'll always have that transactional detail, that audit trail information of the job forever and ever, until you decide you actually do want to purge it out of the system. But most people leave jobs in the history file for years, so they can always go back to them. Okay, I'm going to go back here. And okay, so I'm going to do it one last. I promise this is my last poll where I'm going to make you do some work. So I'm curious how close I was to showing some of the key things. Oh, there we go. Makes better. There we go. How close was today's example to your business or to your prospect's business, as far as things that is really needed? Okay, so is this exactly what you do, or is it very close? Or you could say, wow, I love what I've seen. How do I get this? Which I'll tell you in a minute how to do that. Or you could say it's not for you. That's okay. We need a couple more people to vote. Just pop in a little quick answer there for me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Let me close this out, and I'll share back the results. So 20% say this is exactly what we do. Excellent, excellent. 60%, I'll take that one. Very close. But I have some questions, and we love questions. So there's the question box right now. You can put in a question. You could also email me questions as well, but I'd prefer a question in the question box. And 20% said, wow, I love what you have shown. So excellent. Thank you very much for those that have put in that. And nobody says it's not for you, so I appreciate that. Nolan's got another question here. This is great. It looks good for companies that does manufacturing, but do professional service companies use this product since you have T&M and fixed price billing? Yeah, Nolan, we use this software in many different industries. It does not have to be a conveyor manufacturer. It can be purely service type work, where it's just there is maybe even no materials. That it's strictly. If I go back here to the statistics, it is only labor and no materials at all, maybe some outside processes or subcontractors, but many times it is a very much a professional service organization that is wanting to track their cost of the job. So great question. Okay. Hussein's asking how to manage different versions of the job estimate. We have only two versions. We have the original estimate and we have the current estimate. It does not maintain estimate number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. We only keep track of 2. Did you see that? Let me show you where I'm talking about here. Go back to the job area. And that's a good question. So we have these 2 budgets. We have a current, the original budget, and the current budget. So we have 2 budgets. And sorry. There, works better if you can see my screen, huh? Thank you for saying that. So you have this original budget and the current budget. So there's two budgets, and we didn't want to go crazy with how many 3 budgets, 4 budgets. If you have a client that needs that, I would leave that up to you to add that additional functionality. Okay, so I want to go back to our study guide because there's one more thing before I bring Jenny on that I want to show you. That it just, I sometimes when people see Business Central, this may be the first time you've seen Business Central, and notice at this stage we've got 6 jobs that are planning, 6 jobs that are quote jobs, and 18 open jobs. I'm going to park this client out of the way. Oh, there's 2 things I want to show. I'm going to move this out of the way for a minute, and I'm going to open up the Windows client. This is just a different view of same information. 6 planning jobs. If I click on the open jobs list, so I've got that same job here. So I've got the same thing. This is so many of you are more comfortable or more accustomed to this view of information with a little different ribbon up here. But notice you've got the same thing. If I can bring both of these up simultaneously. I don't know if I can or not. Let me try. I don't know if I can do that. Let me move this over, and I'm going to bring up the other one. We'll try this. Oh, no, I guess I can't. Okay, so I can't do that. But it's exactly the same information in both views. Here's basically the ribbon is the jobs, the contacts, customers, vendors, items. That's the same thing down the left side. Up at the top is the job analysis, inventory, resources, and posted documents. Same thing that's down on the left side here. So they've just rearranged the menu a little bit. It's all the same information, the same list of jobs. It displays a little bit differently here. Notice that I'm doing this all in a browser. So I'm doing this, I'm right where you would have Google and everything else right here in your Windows browser. So I'm just on a different tab, and I'm running NAV software. It's called the browser version, the web client version of the software. One other thing I just thought of, I should show this as well. In the design, I don't know if you've ever seen, this is the web client. Have you ever seen it on a tablet? So this is what it would look like on a tablet. So the same thing, here's the menus and stuff, and you can click on your jobs, and this is the job list. So it's the same thing as if you had it on a tablet, and if you put it on a phone, of course it gets even smaller, but It's the same information. It's just the footprint of the information is smaller on different devices. But I think it's pretty cool that your software can be on a cell phone, it can be on a tablet device, or it can be on your desktop, and that's the way I've been kind of showing it here today as we've been going along. Hussein says, I saw one of the screens that showed import CAD button. What does that do? That's a great question. So let me go back, show everybody that option in case they didn't see it as well. Got good eyes. So let's go back to the estimating screen is where that is. So there is an option here under process called import CAD. And what that does is it imports your CAD. It imports CAD. So if you have a CAD bill of materials that you have created and you want to bring them into your job, into the planning lines, basically this where I just typed in the materials, side panels, base, type, I just typed in the item. But if you want to actually use this utility, you set up the mapping, and then it brings in your material list from any CAD software that you're using. We do have to work out the map between the software. Typically, it's a CSV file or an Excel file or some kind of export file from your CAD software, and it pulls in that material list for you rather than you keying this in. Okay, just another way to do things. I'm glad you saw it. CSV, maybe it's CSV, not CVS. That's the pharmacy, sorry. CSV file, yeah. Okay, so I wanted to show you at least briefly that comparison between the one design and the other. One other thing I want to mention as far as next steps, and Jenny, let me see if I can get you to come on here. Let me unmute your phone. Test your mic, make sure it's working.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfect. So tell them a little bit about what a discovery meeting is.
Well, if you are interested in the software and want to take some next steps to get some more information and discuss specific requirements for either you or if you have a prospect, you can call or email me and we can go through those. And then we can even set up a demo if you think that would be something you're interested in. But yeah, we're happy to help. So I can generate a quote for you, give you some more information, walk through the software with you. But yeah, you can call or email me and we will go from there.
Great. Okay. So it's really important that we understand how you want to use the software. And so we do that with what we call a discovery meeting. And Jenny kind of leads those off. And so if you would like to set up some time with us and have that discussion, we would welcome the opportunity to talk with you about it. Answer when it will be. Oh, yeah, there was a question about when this will be available on the BC Cloud, basically in AppSource. So the AppSource version of this software is under development right now. I've been testing it as it goes. There's a couple more things we want to add to it before we release it. It won't be this exact software, but it's going to look very much like what you saw today. Okay, very, very much. It won't have every feature. I didn't show every feature today. But it's going to be very, very similar to what you see here, and it will be available on the AppSource for anybody that's using the Microsoft Cloud version of the software. It is available now for Business Central. What you've seen here is the Business Central version, but it's the on-prem version, which is the more powerful version of the software. So thank you for the question on that. The AppSource one we're going to call Business Job Manager Cloud. Job Manager Core. I haven't got the name quite right. We've changed the name around a couple times. It's Job Manager Core. It's going to be the core functionality of Job Manager. It won't have everything, but it's going to have a lot of goodies in there, and I think you're going to really like it. We'll get an announcement out. I'm sure I'll be doing a webinar on it as well when it is available for purchase. Okay, let's see what else we got here. All right, so if there's other questions, the way to do it is just pop them in the question box and we will answer your questions. But if there are none, we will, I'll stick around for a minute, but we're going to close it out here. And thank you all very much for attending. Hope you like what you see. We always love your feedback and positive or negative. So I hopefully you like what you see. Okay. Oh, and there was a question about recording. Yes, there will be a recording, and probably get that out the next day or so. Okay, and it'll go out to everybody. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to close out the meeting for today. Thank you all very much. Have a good week.